We have news on a developing story about a major vaccine trial being halted, plus a little perspective as we mark 19 years since the terrorist attacks of September 11th. Hope you're off to a great day. We'll have a sprinkling of news in between, but let's start with these vaccine trials that we've been talking so much about. Big picture you should know is AstraZeneca is a major pharmaceutical company. They've been working on a vaccine related to COVID-19. It's in the final stages. And what we learned is that a participant fell ill. We don't know if that person fell ill because of the vaccine or because of something else. How could it be something else? Well, the company commented a little bit about this. Back in July, they had to halt their trial because there was a participant that developed some neurological symptoms. It was later discovered that that participant reportedly had MS. And so what the company is saying is as you involve more people in a trial, there's a greater likelihood that you could have someone with a predisposition to an illness or a pre-existing condition. And you have to kind of investigate whether or not did the vaccine spark an illness in someone, or is it something completely unrelated? Until they know what happened, the trial is halted right now. An independent committee is actually reviewing this to see what happens next. The company says that they have the infrastructure for 3 billion doses of the vaccine to be delivered globally, if indeed it gets through the trial, if the trial restarts. So these are the stakes that the company is confronting. I did a little digging on vaccines yesterday, and hopefully we can talk a little bit about this over the next several weeks as we see what happens with these trials. It's a really big unknown. The AstraZeneca vaccine was thought of as a front runner in part because it uses a more traditional delivery system for the vaccine. So what it would do is use a little bit of a cold virus, a cold virus that causes a cold in chimpanzees, to deliver a little bit of genetic material of the SARS-CoV-2 virus to your body. And the idea is that your body would develop an immune response to this. And so if you're in the wild, then your body would know how to confront the virus that causes COVID-19. That's the thought. These other vaccines that are in development, this mRNA vaccine, does something different. It delivers a little bit of genetic material to you that's manufactured. And what it does is it causes your cell to actually grow or develop the exact thing that your body will eventually attack. So it's a completely different way of vaccinating someone against a particular disease. And it's never been approved before, but there are some mRNA vaccines that are in late stage trials as well. So the idea is that you could quickly, if you have the genetic sequence of a virus, if you are able to use that sequence to teach the human body how to produce the exact thing that it later needs to identify and attack, then the hope for these sort of vaccines is they could be very nimble and really help prevent a lot of different viruses. But it's a big unknown of whether or not they'll be effective or the side effects. So we're dealing with a lot of different variables for these vaccine trials, and there's a lot to talk about. So those are really broad strokes, but I hope that's helpful. In the meantime, back to Washington, D.C., 2 reports on the White House that I want you to know about. One is there's a new book coming out next week by the famous journalist Bob Woodward. It's called Rage. It features interviews with the President of the United States. In the media, storm heading into the book release, there are quotes that are being released by the president where the president said that he downplayed the coronavirus because he didn't want to cause panic in the American public. The president's critics are pointing to this and saying the president purposely misled the American public. The White House is saying, no, he didn't. He was trying to calm the American public. What you should know about this, the book is coming out next week. We have small snippets of the audio interview, about 60 seconds. And so it would be helpful to hear more of these interviews to be able to place some of these quotes in broader context, but you should know what's happening. In the meantime, you have a whistleblower, someone that's raising their hand in government and saying, hey, I'm worried about this, saying that he was asked by the Department of Homeland Security to change some of his intelligence reports that he was delivering to the White House. The Department of Homeland Security denies this. This is in Congress right now where these whistleblower reports go. We'll continue to watch that story as it develops at the same time. These reports sort of parallel themselves because it's talking about a theme that we're seeing related to criticism of the White House downplaying whether it is reports on the coronavirus or intel reports overall. But again, the White House is defending itself against these allegations, saying that these are politically motivated. So more as we get it. In the meantime, talk about a juxtaposition of news. Yesterday, the president was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize related to the peace deal that he helped broker between the UAE and Israel. Both of those countries are coming to the White House next week, where they're going to sign this peace deal. We won't know who wins the Nobel Peace Prize for a while, but you should know it's happening. In the meantime of all of this, here we are, we're marking September 11th. And one of the questions I had this week as we're stepping away from the report in the Atlantic that we talked about reports that the president is disparaging the military, these series of reports that have emerged also criticizing the White House. One of the things I do at Smarter News is I want to take a deep breath, take a step back as news organizations are going deep on these stories and ask, what do you really need to know about? What's really important? Where is the U.S. military right now? And what's going on with our foreign adversaries? I think we should talk a little bit about that as we mark September 11th. There's a lot happening in Afghanistan right now. We went into Afghanistan in the United States because the Taliban gave safe harbor to Al-Qaeda, a terrorist organization, to plot and plan the September 11th attacks. And there's been a question since that time about how closely the Taliban is affiliated with Al-Qaeda. We have tried to negotiate a peace deal between the Taliban and the Afghan government. It is not going well. And the question about what happens with that peace deal will help determine America's role in Afghanistan as it moves forward. So a lot unknown still in that country and a lot of violence still taking place. Just yesterday, there was a bombing that was targeting a former government official in Afghanistan that speaks out against the Taliban. So there's still a lot of violence on the ground there, and a big question about America's role going forward and whether or not this peace deal that we're trying to broker takes place or whether or not it's wise. In the meantime, the U.S. military is announcing a drawdown of some of our U.S. soldiers in Iraq, where we've been stationed there since just after September 11th. So that's taking place. And then also, if we look at China, there's a recent report to Congress where the Department of Defense, for the very first time to my knowledge, says that China's Navy is actually the largest Navy in the world. That used to be something that America was proud of, but China has a larger Navy force than America, and the Department of Defense is raising concerns about that. There's still a question about how effective and advanced the Navy is related to our Navy, but it's a big question about how China is positioning itself to also have dominance as a world power, because who controls the seas often in history has really helped secure a country's role as the preeminent world power. So that's something I want to flag a couple of those stories for you as we again mark this event. I know every year it brings up a lot of different feelings, doesn't it? About where you were, how our lives changed, how the course of history changed for our nation. And there's a lot of deep things to think about this year as well. So look forward to your comments about that. Any questions on our stories, of course, let us know, and we'll have more at smarternews.com. Have a great day, guys. I'll talk to you later.